May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 5A through D. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And how do you recognize them?
Those are photos of one of the siblings' rooms that I directed our CSI to take photos of.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of how the room looked like on February 8th, 2022?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would enter into evidence State's Exhibit 5A through D.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts States Exhibits 5A through D as in Delta in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Publishing 5A. What is this a picture of?
That is a photograph of one of the daughters of the Ferriters' rooms.
And publishing 5B. What is that a picture of?
That is another angle of the same room.
5C. What is that?
That appears to be the closet of the same room.
And 5D.
That's another angle of the same room.
Now, after going into that room, did you go anywhere else?
Yes, I went into the other sibling room.
Did you at any point go into a bathroom?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 6.
Okay.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 6. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
That is a photograph of the bathroom, of the spare bathroom inside the Ferriters' residence.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of how the bathroom looked like on February 8th, 2022?
That it is.
Your Honor, this time the state would enter into evidence State's Exhibit 6.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts States Exhibit 6 in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Now, what is this a picture of?
That is the same photo you just showed me, which is the bathroom of the spare bedroom, the spare bathroom inside the Ferriter residence.
Where was it located in the residence?
I believe it was in between the siblings' rooms.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 7A through F. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 7A through F, if you just want to take a moment to look at it. Do you recognize these photos?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
Those are photos of the other sibling room that I directed my CSI to take.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of what the room looked like on February 8th, 2022?
That they are.
Your Honor, at the time the state would enter into evidence State's Exhibit 7A through F.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts States Exhibit A through F as in Frank in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Now publishing State's 7A. What is this? Or that's actually 7C. What is this a picture of?
That is a photograph of one of the siblings' beds inside of the Ferriter residence.
Okay, now publishing State's Exhibit 7B. What is that a picture of?
That is another angle of a bedroom inside of the Ferriter residence.
Now, after going to that bedroom, was there anywhere else in the house that you went?
Yes.
Where did you go?
The master bedroom.
And I know during our direct examination, you indicated that there was a Florida room.
That's correct.
Did you go there also?
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 8A through B. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm now showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 8A through B. Do you recognize those?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
Those are photographs of the Florida room that I directed my CSI to take.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of what the Florida room looked like on February 8th, 2022?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would enter into evidence State's Exhibit A through 8AB.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts State's Exhibit 8A through B as an anchor in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Now showing you 8A. What is that a picture of?
That is a photograph of the Florida room inside the Ferriter residence.
Now, did you have your CSI take pictures of the garage?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel what has been previously marked as State's Exhibit 9. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 9. Do you recognize this?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
This is a photograph of the garage from the exterior of the residence with the garage door open that I directed my CSI to take.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of what the garage looked like on February 8th, 2022?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would introduce into evidence State's Exhibit 9.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts State's Exhibit 9 in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
So you stated this was a photo of the garage
That's correct.
from the exterior.
That's correct.
Okay, and where is that enclosure that you had been speaking about?
If you are looking at that photograph, behind the tan shelves, behind those green boxes, you'll see a white wall. Those two white walls that you see there, those are some of the walls of the enclosure.
Now, did your CSI take pictures of inside of the garage?
Yes, she did.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 10A through D.
Okay.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 10A through D. You just want to look through them. Do you recognize them?
I do.
And what are these?
These are photographs of the interior of the garage that I directed my CSI to take, which included photographs of an orange Home Depot bucket.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of what the inside of the garage looked like on February 8th, 2022?
That they are.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would enter into evidence State's Exhibit 10A through D.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts State's Exhibit 10A through D as in Delta in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Now publishing State's Exhibit 10A. What is this a picture of?
That is a photograph of the orange Home Depot bucket the victim had to use to urinate and defecate in.
Okay, and how do you know that?
That meets the depiction of the Home Depot bucket that was shown inside of the surveillance videos, as well as what was told to me by the victim.
Now publishing 10B. What is this a picture of?
That is another angle of the interior of the garage that shows to the door, which leads to the exterior of the residence, with the enclosure there in view on the right of that photograph.
Okay, now going to 10C. What is this a picture of?
That is a photograph of the shelving units that were inside the garage. As you can see on one of the lower shelving units, that's where the Home Depot bucket was placed when we arrived there on February 8th.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 11A through E.
Okay.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 11A through E. Do you recognize those photos?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
Those are photos of the exterior of the enclosure I directed my CSI to take.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of what the outside of the enclosure looked like on February 8th, 2022?
That they are.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would enter into evidence State's Exhibit 11A through E.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts State's Exhibits 11A through E as an epsilon in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Publishing State's 11A. What is that a picture of?
That is a picture of the exterior of the enclosure inside the garage of the Ferriter residence.
And what about for 11B?
That is another photograph of a different angle of the enclosure.
Now, if we can go to 11E.
That's a-
11C, what 11D, what is that picture of?
That is a photograph of myself holding up the letter C to indicate that that was room C for the search warrant. And that is a photograph of the exterior of the enclosure inside the Ferriter garage with the door to the enclosure leaning up against the enclosure.
You also indicated that photos of the room were taken, or
That's
the
correct.
enclosure.
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit 12A through C. Permission to approach the witness?
Granted.
I'm showing you what's been marked State's Exhibit 12A through C. Do you recognize those photos?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
Those are photos of the interior of the enclosure that I directed our CSI to take.
Are they a fair and accurate depiction of what the interior of the structure looked like on February 8th, 2022?
That they are.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would introduce into evidence State's Exhibit 12A through C.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts State's Exhibit 12A through C as in Charlie in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Now, publishing 12A. What is that a picture of?
That's a photo of the interior of the enclosure.
And at that point, there was nothing in it.
That's correct. The only item that was in it was that window air conditioning.
Now, on January 30th of 2022, when you first responded to the house, what was inside that enclosure?
Inside that enclosure on that day was a desk about the size of this witness stand, as well as the box spring and mattress.
And when you're referring to the box spring and mattress, is that the same one that was in the room in the photos?
That's correct.
Overruled.
How did you know that it was the same box spring?
I reviewed the ring surveillance photos. In some of the ring surveillance photos, did not have any sheets on the bed. As you could see in the previous photos that were brought by state, you could see a very pronounced tag that was on the mattress. That tag is the same tag that I saw on the 8th. That was the same tag that I saw in several of the ring surveillance videos. So with those, I believe that that mattress is the same mattress that was inside of that room.
Now, publishing State's 11B, what is that a picture of?
That is another angle of that same interior enclosure.
And 11C, or 12C, I apologize.
That is another angle of the interior of the enclosure. This time you can highlight there the door of that enclosure is off and laying against the wall.
On January 30th of 2022, when you first went to the residence, was the door like that?
The door was not like that. The door was on the door frame, hinged and utilized appropriately with the exterior deadbolt lock on the outside.
Your Honor, I'm opposing counsel showing them State's Exhibit 13A through C. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 13A through C, if you want to go through those. Do you recognize those photos?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
Those are photos of the door of the enclosure that were taken at my direction by the CSI.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of what the door looked like on February 8th, 2022?
It is.
Your Honor, this time the state would enter into evidence State's Exhibit 13A through C.
Any objection? Court receives and accepts State's Exhibits 13A through C as in Charlie in evidence without objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Now publishing 13A. What is this a picture of?
That is a photograph of the exterior of the door, highlighting the deadbolt, which was on the exterior of the enclosure, as well as the regular door knob lock, which is also on the exterior of the room.
What is a deadbolt?
A deadbolt is a locking device that most probably everyone here has at their residence to secure from anyone entering or exiting an enclosure or room.
And that lock was only on the outside of the door, right?
That's correct.
What about on the inside of the door?
On the inside was only the spot where you'd have to put a key. So there was no way for, if that door was locked, for anyone on the inside to exit.
What about the lights? Did you notice any lights in the enclosure?
Yes.
And what about the light switch?
The light switch was also on the exterior of the room. It was to the left of the door in this photograph.
1 minute, Your Honor.
Granted.
Now, you stated that you had gotten that search warrant from Ring, correct?
That's correct.
And you were able to access all about 21,000 videos?
That's correct.
Okay. And you said that you had reviewed those videos before?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as States Exhibit 14. This is just the first two. I need to add on to it. May I approach the witness?
I'm sorry.
May I approach the witness?
May-
I know it's hard because it's a USB, but I'm showing you States Exhibit 14. Did you have a chance to review the ring videos on that USB?
I did.
Okay. And are they a fair and accurate depiction of when you made contact at the Ferriter house on January 30th of 2022?
Yes, they are.
And these were obtained through the ring search warrant, correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would enter into evidence States Exhibit 14.
Any objection?
Your Honor, may be approached.
You can approach. Apologize for that technical issue there.
And just for the record, is States Exhibit 14 entered into evidence?
Yes, Exhibit 14 is entered into evidence over objection.
Permission to publish?
Granted. And let me just be clear on that ruling, Ms. Black. Over objection is to the first two videos on Exhibit 14, without objection is to the third video.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. Why don't we mark them by reference to the file number there, because that's what it's going to show up on the thumb drive. So which one is the video 3?
So video 3 is 1643601550000.
All right, so that's the one that's admitted in evidence without objection. The other two videos on that thumb drive are admitted in evidence over objection. So I think that's clear for the record.
Now the state will be publishing the one ending in 107000. Now, what do you see in that video?
Overruled.
Judge, court recording can't hear defense.
Do we have another? Yeah, we're going to bring you a mic, Mr. Wade, so you can have the assistance of the technology here. I mean, as much as this room is mic'd up, it's a big room, and if you aren't close to a mic, you don't get recorded. That's why I'm kind of anal about it. All right, go ahead, Ms. Black.
Your Honor, could we just replay that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Publish the first video.
Granted.
Now publishing the exhibit ending in 299000.
Is this the third one?
It's still the second.
Still
one.
the second one.
Now publishing the last one ending in 55000.
Okay, Mark, can you make sure the volume is muted or turned completely down? Okay, all right, good. We're good to go then.
So without going into what was said, what are you doing in this video?
In that video, Mrs. Ferriter was directing me to the books that were placed on top of that desk. She advised that, I'm sorry, there was books that were on top of the desk. I was looking for other writings or anything that could have been from the victim to help me try to find out where he may be, etc.
And now what just happened?
Again, I stated thought I saw a camera in the corner, but I said to myself, is that really a camera in the corner? So if you see it, I come back in and verify that, yes, there is a camera inside of the structure.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Wade, you doing the cross? All right, you may proceed. And you may proceed at your convenience.
Detective, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You had said that you had a myriad of roles in your journey with JPD, correct?
That's correct.
Including just, regular arrests of crimes that happen on the street, correct?
That's correct.
That would include arrests of juveniles, correct?
Love contest from Ruth Brown. I love Ruth so much. She was an amazing mentor. So
The trial I'm watching right now is the foster parents made this 14-year-old little boy live in a box in the garage in Florida. He only came out to go to school. He had a bucket to use the bathroom, a mattress on the floor, no windows, and he was like he barely got out of it except to go to school. Okay, thank you. Oh, sideline.
All right, everyone may be seated. Where we can have IT do what they need to do, or
Well, I think we just have to, they're, my understanding, we're set up. We just have to like go down there and.
once the cross is completed, then, or the redirect is completed, then we'll take another break to let you relocate where you need to be. And I am going to remain in this courtroom with the defendant and with the jury.
That's fine, you spoke with IT about it, and my understanding is we're gonna be able to see you on the screen.
Yeah,
and hear you.
yeah.
And so that can be fine.
All right, and the only other thing is that the video link for Zoom cannot show the minors. So if I cut my video feed off, will they still be able to see me? Okay, that may mean I need to change my video input because I'm working off the owl now, but I'll make sure that I do that so that it just shows me.
And just like we're doing this
We will. I want to make sure that the defendant's provided with all the due process rights he is entitled to. So what I will do is I'll look to you, sir, Mr. Ferriter, and you can just give me the nod if you need to speak with your attorneys, or if your attorneys want to state on the record after the direct that you wish to speak with your client, let me know, and I'll certainly provide that opportunity for that to occur. That will be fine. That will be fine. All right, court will be in recess. I've got 3 o'clock, so we'll be in recess to 3:10. We're back in session on State versus Ferriter. Still waiting on Ms. Copeland, is that correct? You think we proceed without her? Okay. All right, Mr. Wahid, are you ready to continue with your cross? All right, you may go ahead and bring the jurors in, Mark. All rise. All right, everyone may be seated. Mr. Wahid, you may continue with your cross-examination.
Okay, this TV back on. So, Detective, you spoke to shortly after he came out of the school, correct?
I'm not sure who you're referring to.
Well, the child you know is who we've started calling as well. So I'm just trying to
Okay.
use the name he wishes to be used now. So,
Okay.
all right. So you spoke to him shortly after he was picked up at school, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You turn on the TV. So I'm going to, so you saw what he looked like, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And it was the same day, it was probably within an hour of him being picked up from school, correct?
That's correct.
All right. I'm going to show you a short video clip of that. We can get the TV working. There we go. All right. Go ahead and play that. Okay. Do you recognize that child?
I do.
And who's that?
That is the victim in this case.
That's or Ferriter.
That's correct.
Okay. And the date of this body worn is 1/31 of 2022, correct?
That's correct.
And is that the day you spoke to him at JPD?
That's correct.
And was he wearing what he's wearing here?
Yes, he was.
So this is what he looked like at that time, correct?
That's correct.
I'm going to move defense 1 into evidence.
Any objection? All right, court receives and accepts defendant's exhibit 1 in evidence without objection.
All right, defense 2.
It's 1 in evidence, and we did mark the prior, so let's keep it sequential. Let's keep it, the first exhibit will be 1 for ID purposes, which was not admitted, and the objection was sustained. So this will be exhibit 2 in evidence without objection. Are you okay with that numbering, Ms. Moran? I don't want to screw your numbering up.
Whatever number you all want to use, I'm good with.
So that way we keep the original 1 separate, even though it's only ID. All right, so, all right, in any event, 2 comes in evidence.
I just want to make sure that for defending that exhibit 2, that's just that snippet and not the entire.
Correct.
That is correct.
That is it. Just that section of the video that you saw. Now, at some point, you and other SWAT officers executed a search warrant on the home of the Ferriters, correct?
That's correct.
That was on February 8th of 22.
That's correct.
And the pictures that we saw on direct were after the execution of the search warrant.
That's correct.
And it was after the officers had already gone through and looked at everything that they needed to look for, correct? They were executing a search warrant. So they'd gone in and looked around the house.
They'd gone in and cleared the residence to make sure that the residence was clear and safe and made sure that it was okay for me to go and look for evidence that I needed. Yes.
All right. And and then it was after that that you then had CSI come in and take the pictures that you just introduced on direct, correct?
That's correct.
And the officers that you were with, including yourself, were all wearing body-worn camera, correct?
That's correct.
And you walked through the house and you could see the layout of the house and all of the rooms exactly as they were at the time where you first got there, correct?
The layout was the same. Yes, that's correct.
And the way it looked is the way it looked when you first walked in on February 8th of 22, correct?
That's correct.
So those body worn cameras would be a true and accurate depiction of what the house looked like, both the layout and the physical objects in the house on February 8th of 22.
That's correct.
And that body worn would be earlier than those crime scene pictures, correct? In time?
That's correct.
Okay. This time, Judge, I'd move to introduce body worn camera from February 8th, 22, in the execution of the search warrant on the Ferriter home.
Do you have the exhibit?
We do.
All right, so what exhibit? Exhibit
It's a
3?
video.
Exhibit 3, right? Okay, all right. Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, we would object. We approach.
You can approach. All right, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we're going to take another break. I need to review some video before I have it presented to you, if at all. So that means we're going to take a quick recess for you, and we'll call you back as soon as I've done what I need to do out here. So don't get too comfortable, but it'll be, I'm told the video is 13 minutes, and I do need to review it prior to making an evidentiary ruling. All right, everyone may be seated. All right, so let's cue up this video for me to review. Yeah, so Ms. Murad, thank you. Go right. I only want you to show me what you're intending to play before the jury and what will be admitted into evidence. And I think you also need to state clearly on the record which body cam segment it is for which officer so that it's readily identifiable for record purposes.
I don't actually, I would have to look and see which body worn camera it is. When I was provided it, we don't necessarily get that. I did not really have evidence online. However, this is a body worn camera. I'll put it in the exhibit. It's 2020. figure out later. We're starting this at 4:20.
Okay. Yeah, just turn it so I can see it.
And this is Defense Exhibit 3. It is the body worn of the execution of the search warrant
Okay.
on December 8th.
All right, you can hit play. This is a 13-minute segment.
No, it's being played from 4:20.
Looks about 8 minutes, I guess.
Give the police department, give a search warrant to the resident. We step out of the home, do it now. Give the police department, we have a search warrant for this resident. Please step out of the home, do it now. Just go to the other thing. Give the police department, we have a search warrant for 277, Grand Point North. If you're not going to present this resident, please step out, your hands up, do it now. I give us life. Yep. They want the ball. Yep. You guys have a ball? Yeah, we have a ball. All right, thank you.
That's why I make a note at 5:19.
Let's come here, shield. Shield. Give it a police department, search warrant. You not gonna block this? Give it a police department, search warrant. Take that one down. Give it a police department, search warrant. Give it clear. All right, ready for this one? Hold it, hold it. Hold it, police department. Give me one. Give me one. Police department, search warrant. On the back of the line, I'll go tell you. All right, let's go this way first. Hold this together. There. Who's on out? Oh, yeah, this is on. Yep. All right. Hold. Police department, search warrant. Clear. Look on that. Love it. Clear. From the right there? Yep. You're gonna put it on, search warrant. Okay, hold this one, hold this. Go ahead. Jerry. Yo, right here. Push. Get a pull. Get a pull out. Yo, good. Yeah. Hold on. Hold over all the way. Get it on that. Hold over there. Search warrant. Which one, search warrant? I was saying. Gonna push that wall. Yo, I just gonna use the garage. Which one, search warrant? Yeah. I'm gonna open it. You're gonna place the ball. It's on the warrant. Pull that. Okay, good. We're showing my hand on the road together. Clear. Nice. Okay, clear. Come to you, Matt. Coming back to you. Blue. Okay. Hold this, hold that one. All right, come guys. Sound you holding? Okay. Response, search warrant. Please respond to search warrant. We'll see you to, your. Please respond to search warrant. You're released search warrant. You don't want to pop that whole magnet? Ready? 2, Please park third floor, please park third floor. Please park third floor. Yeah, we have, hey, can you pull out the third ladder? All right. Check it back out here. Just stand by and check it back out here. Right. Please call the third floor. Clear? Dominic? Sorry, sir. You can start this one. Just call the back. You can figure it out. Hold on a second. Here, can you put that like that way? Can you go back one more? No. Little water. Hold on. Okay, you got it. Yep. Cool. All right, we are, come on. Yeah, I got you. All right, we are, front door. Yeah, they can. Yeah. You are gonna go out. The shield, yeah. Come on. Yep.
Does that conclude the video? All right, let me hear a brief argument from the state on your objection again.
That is prejudicial to the case. It's not relevant. I understand that there are some portions where, I know that the
Mark,
defendant,
Mike.
did the portion of the 4 minutes and 20 seconds, but up until then, that portion should not be shown. Also,
Up to what portion?
I know they started at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. The beginning 4 minutes and 19 seconds should not be shown. So if they're starting it at 4 minutes and 20 seconds, that's fine. But the fact of the matter is that this is the execution of the search warrant. The detective was not part of the execution of the search warrant. He was present after the fact or even at that time, but he did not himself go into the house until after when the CSI was taking pictures. And the fact that there's weapons drawn, there are officers that have like the protective shield, none of that is relevant to them showing the layout of the house. If they want to show the layout of the house, there may be a different body worn camera to do that.
All right, response, Mr. White, and then I'll make a ruling.
Thank you. So I laid foundation with the detective. The detective was there. It's really a question of does this truly and accurately depict the layout of the house?
Yes, but in a way that's not, in a way that's probative and not unduly prejudicial. And that's a concern I have. So I want you to address the prejudice argument, because after seeing the video, I have some concern about prejudice of showing that. And there being much more available means to show the layout of the house without having the potential prejudice of showing guns drawn by law enforcement on the execution of a search warrant.
So I don't know that, I don't know who the prejudice is to, but the fact is that the layout of the house, first of all, this is the first time they go into the house, is the best evidence of what that house looked like before any law enforcement touched anything. Secondly, the pictures that were introduced of each room don't actually show the proximity and the distance. For example, the garage to the kitchen, and it's one short hallway between the two, that where the master bedroom is, where they decided to put the toddler, which is right across from the master bedroom. It also, when you have the video going through the house, you get a sense of the size of the house. This is not a 5,000, 6,000 square foot house. This is about a 3,000 square foot house. You also get a sense of the proximity of the children's rooms. They go in and there's one room, bathroom, room. These are all very tight. These are generally small rooms. You get a better sense of that, the size of those rooms.
So Mr. White, are you telling me there are no other body worn cam videos that don't have weapons drawn that can achieve the same purpose of showing the layout of the house.
So we looked through to find, so obviously all the officers who are breaching have weapons drawn. So we went through for those officers who first go in to see. Now, I think the officer whose body camera we have shown the court has the least amount of time where there's a gun in the picture. As you could see most of the house from that. It's not blocking the view, which is why that one is selected. And I think every officer upon entry had a gun drawn. So there is not one picture or video of body worn on entry without a gun or a shield.
All right, so I did not hear a question about Officer Ryan, I think it was Colin, whether he had a body worn camera. He was the first one there. He went and observed the structure, the first witness. Are there any other? The very Ryan Kolnick. He didn't. All right. The first officer that went inside was whom? He did not have a body worn camera. All right. So, is there any body worn camera that shows the layout of this premises at any point in time, at or near the time of the alleged incident?
There were subsequent body worn cams after the breaching where the officers are walking around the house and during the execution of the search warrant, but there's not a walkthrough.
Okay. All right. My ruling is I'm going to sustain the state's objection. I find this, quite frankly, to be unduly prejudicial to both sides. And the prejudice is outweighed by the probative value of merely showing the layout of the premises. It's without prejudice to the defense to use other means, other body worn camera segments to show the layout in a situation that's not nearly as energized as what's shown on this body worn camera here. So if you've got other body worn camera that shows the layout or where the rooms are situated or what's in the rooms where guns are not drawn, I will allow it. But I'm not going to allow the playing of this video before the jury. Let's have this marked as Defense Exhibit 3 for ID, and it'll be part of the record for appellate purposes. All right. Mr. White, are you ready to continue with your cross?
I am.
All right. You may go ahead and have the jurors brought back out. Let's go ahead and take that off the screen.
Julian.
All right, everyone may be seated. Ms. Roy, you may continue with your cross-examination.
Detective, on direct examination, you said so you had subpoenaed all of the Ring videos, correct?
That's correct.
And those Ring videos were from January 5th to February 1st of 2022, correct?
Excuse me. I apologize. May I refer to the search warrant?
Yes.
Thank you. And it was a search warrant, not a subpoena. And the date range was from December 28th, 2021 to January 31st, 2022.
December 28th, 2021 to January 28th, you said?
December 28th, 2021 to January 31st, 2022.
Right. And in that month and a few days, there were 21,000 different video clips that you obtained, correct?
That's correct.
And you said you reviewed most of them, correct?
That's correct.
And on direct, you said that that the child used that Home Depot bucket to both urinate and defecate.
That's correct.
Which video did you ever see where he defecated in that bucket?
I did not see a video where he defecated in the bucket.
And you're aware that the Ferriters had very recently moved into that house, correct?
That's correct.
Somewhere in late December of 2021,
That's correct.
shortly before the Ring camera was set up and where the dates of the videos start. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And in the pictures that you'd introduced on direct, you can see in the master bedroom a picture, a big picture that is still on the ground in the master bedroom. You see boxes in other parts of the house. There's still an effort of moving in happening that you can see evidenced in those pictures, correct?
Overruled. If you know, you can answer.
If you're saying that it appears that they were just moving in, it didn't appear to me that they were just moving in, and the residence, it appeared that the residence had been lived in for some time, especially if you look in the garage, you can see that there were several items that were there that had been appeared to be stored there for some time. And there was also a subsequent enclosure in which the victim was made to stay in.
So it's your position that they had not recently moved in?
My position is, you stated by those photographs, if I could speculate, if it appeared that they had just moved in. By those photographs, no. By their testimony and what was told to me, I was advised that they had just recently purchased the house, and I was advised that they had just recently moved into the house. Those photographs, to me, it didn't appear that they had just moved in.
When you came to the house on January 30th, that was the first time you came to the house, correct?
That's correct.
And Tim Ferriter was not at the house, correct?
That's correct.
And you subsequently learned he wasn't even in the country at the time, correct?
That's correct.
No other questions.
Any redirect? All right, you may begin, Ms. Black.
On cross, you were asked about seeing defecating in the Home Depot box?
That's
or
correct.
The bucket? Okay. But you said that you did not see that on video.
That's correct.
That was not on the video in the Jupiter home, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But he did speak to you about what had happened in Arizona.
That's correct.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay, is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, that concludes your testimony. You may step down. Thank you for being here.
Your Honor, just to wonder if that's the answer we would call him.
Okay, so you're not excused from all further proceedings, but you're excused for purposes of your testimony today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, for the next witness, we need to set up the technology so that it can be properly presented to you. So it's going to be about a 10-minute process. I'm going to have you retired to the jury room again. It won't be that long. As soon as we're geared up to present the testimony to you through the technology, then we'll have you right back out here. All right, everyone may be seated. Before I let the attorneys leave for the other courtroom, is there any special instruction that the state wishes the court to read regarding the in-camera testimony that they're going to be seeing?
Your Honor, I'm not sure about the in-camera, but I do know that Ms. Oakley did print out a instruction of evidence of other crimes, wrongs, or acts, and they, I believe that the witness, Fiona, will be talking about Arizona. And I know that Your Honor had introduced that evidence as voting evidence.
All right, so two things. I will read that instruction, but I also think because this testimony is being presented to them in a way that is not the normal process with somebody on the witness stand, that I can just give them an instruction off the top of my head that they're to regard this testimony the same as they would any other testimony received in this courtroom and to consider it for all purposes. Any objection to that from either side? Okay.
My recommendation on the legal one, though, is I'll alert you, and then I'll just stop, and Your Honor can instruct.
Okay, so you'll let me know at the appropriate time that the state wishes to have that read. That's fine with the court.
Sequestration, it hasn't been an issue, but if I can just invoke the rule.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the rule of sequestration has been invoked, and that is a rule of evidence and procedure that says that if there are any prospective witnesses that are in the courtroom, you must leave and remain outside of the courtroom until you are called as a witness. That's designed so that the witnesses do not get the opportunity to hear any other testimony prior to their own testimony. Once your testimony is concluded, usually the witnesses can remain in the courtroom after that time and view the remaining part of the proceedings. I do rely on counsel to tell me and keep track of the gallery to tell me if there are any witnesses that you intend to call that have come into the courtroom and alert me as quickly as possible so that I can make sure that they're asked to leave. Are there any witnesses that are in the courtroom right now that either side intends to call? All right, has either side seen any witnesses during any of the testimony thus far of people in the courtroom that they would intend to be calling as witnesses in this case?
She does have a list of witnesses here, but I don't know if she intends to call her, I assume not.
Yeah, I don't intend to at this point, but we can have her step out in abundance of caution.
Yeah, I think in an abundance of caution, you should have her step out if she's on the witness list, unless you formally excuse her from the list.
And I just, because there are out-of-state witnesses that have watched some of the proceedings via Zoom, I do not make that clear that that applies to any of them.
I've advised all my witnesses not to even watch on television.
The rule applies to all witnesses, whether you're in this courtroom or whether you're here virtually through Zoom or whether you're watching through some televised proceeding of this trial. You're not to be viewing the testimony of any witnesses that have testified prior to you. You can be asked that on your direct or cross-examination. So I would tell all witnesses that are listed or that are expected to testify that if you are on Zoom, you should not be listening to In fact, you shouldn't even be on Zoom right now while we're in the testimony phase of the case until such time as you've been called. Once your testimony is concluded, then you could log back on and observe the proceedings. Ms. Coakley, how long is it anticipated for you to do what you have to do in courtroom 10G?
I think it'll probably take us like 10 minutes.
All right, so anything that I need to address beforehand? All right, so we're going to.
Schedule-wise, the state is not going to be able to listen today.
Okay, so let's shoot for 10 minutes so that we squeeze every bit out of the day that we can today. How long is this witness expected to take?
I think that's a full hour should be enough time.
Okay, all right, so let's definitely try to get it all set up within the 10-minute time period. And then IT is going to set it up here, so you'll give me the thumbs up from courtroom 10G once you're ready, and then I will give the instruction to the jurors prior to the start of that testimony.
This can be like done during the testimony. I'll let you know. This
Okay,
one.
so is Ms. Black going to remain in this courtroom? Okay, all right, good enough. All right, good enough then. All right, so we have all bases covered with counsel present in the courtroom and the court. Okay, good enough. All right, so Ms. Coakley, you go get set up, and Mr. Waheed, you're going to be in the other courtroom, correct? All right, court will be in recess for 10 minutes, and IT can go ahead and set up my system now.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Nancy, hear me?
That's fine the way it is. I just want to make sure that from a Zoom standpoint, they're only receiving audio at this point.
Yes.
Okay, that's all set up. Okay, so they're receiving audio, not video. This is a dedicated link to here, so I think we're good to go.
Is that where the sound's coming from? It's not coming from that TV. It's not coming from the TV. That just sounds like it's coming from now.
And Ms. Black, who's the witness that's going to be testifying first? Okay, do we have the clerk there to administer oath, or are we going to do the oath remote?
I'm not sure if he's listening. You try.
Your Honor, I don't know if you can hear me. This is Brianna Coakley.
All right, can you hear me fine, Ms. Coakley?
I can hear you fine. We do not have the clerk here. If the clerk was going to come, I was going to ask if she could bring the photographs that were just entered, so I can show them to this witness. But if not, it's not a major deal.
All right, so that's what I'm going to have one of the clerks, if you could, go down to 10G and take the photographs so that Ms. Coakley and Mr. Waheed has them physically. And then once you've administered the oath, Dana, you could come back. Ms. Coakley, are there going to be any other exhibits that the clerk's going to have to manage?
No, and we're not going to enter any exhibits. I just want to show some of the photographs.
Okay, all right, so once you get down there, Dana, we'll get the jurors in here and we'll go ahead and start by having you administer the oath in the presence of the jurors.
And for the record, the state entered into evidence to exhibit 15, which is a combination of all the paper copies of city pictures on that were.
Any objection? All right, so when the jury comes back out, just move 15 in evidence, because I like to receive evidence in front of the jury. Okay. All right, so Mr. Waheed, Ms. Coakley, are you ready to proceed?
Otherwise, you're ready.
Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and bring the jurors. No, as soon as Dana gets there, it'll only take a minute, then we'll get started. And while we're waiting for her to get there, am I okay with both sides with me telling the jury that both the state and the defense have agreed that the next witness's testimony can be taken in the manner that it's being presented to them? Because it ended up being by agreement, correct?
That's fine, Your Honor.
No. I'm talking about the method of testimony. That was by agreement of the parties. All right. Okay. And before we get started, I do want to thank our IT people for working through the logistics of this. It was kind of tricky having a Zoom link and also doing in-camera type testimony. And for those people that are watching and listening to the proceedings on Zoom during this stage of the trial, you will still receive the audio link from the court, but you will not receive the video link because by agreement, the parties have agreed that the testimony of the witness in terms of any broadcast, her likeness and image will be blurred out or not shown. Ms. Coakley, I don't see Dana there yet, so just confirm for me when she arrives so that I don't miss her.
He is entering at this very moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Need a second? Okay. She's here. We're all settled.
All right, thank you for rushing down there, Dana. Okay, all sides ready to proceed with the next witness. All right,
Yes,
Mark,
Honor.
you may go ahead and bring the jurors out. Hey, Ms. Black, I'll deal with your Exhibit 15 before we start this. Jury entering. All right, everyone may be seated. All right, before we begin with the next witness, Ms. Black, you have another exhibit to admit at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, at this time, the state witness exhibit 15, which is all of the pictures that were admitted to evidence exhibits 1 through 13 just on the USB drive.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
All right, so the court receives and accepts State's Exhibit 1515 without objection. All right, thank you, Ms. Black. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the next phase of the proceeding is going to be the testimony presented to you via remote technology. I need to let you know that both sides have agreed in advance to the presentation of the testimony of the next witness in the format that we're presenting it to you. This is live testimony. This individual is in another courtroom, happens to be my main courtroom that they're in and set up for the direct and cross-examination. The thing that's important for you is, even though this is being presented to you remotely, you're to view it and consider it and listen to it the same as you would if this young lady was sitting here in the stand, on the witness stand in this particular courtroom, just because of the way it's being presented. It's being done remotely at this point in time. So with that, and again, you're to consider this the same as you would any other testimony and disregard the format in which it's being presented to you. With that, Ms. Coakley, are you ready to call your next witness?
We are, Your Honor. At this time, the state would call Ferriter.
Okay. All right. This time I'm going to have the clerk in courtroom 10G, if you could go ahead and administer the oath to Ms. Ferriter.
Raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
All right. Ms. Coakley, you may begin at your convenience.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please tell us how old you are? And what grade are you currently in? Now, tell us a little bit about
Ms. Coakley,
how your-
Ms. Coakley, I've not heard her last two answers. Let's do a mic test on her.
So the judge is here, so we're gonna try. You go ahead and give us how old you are again.
All right, that's better. Okay. All right, and just
Is that
stop it. Just
acceptable, Your Honor?
that is acceptable, but I want to just get a sound check and a video check from the jurors. Video is fine as far as the distance. Then if you have any problem with sound, raise your hand so I can alert them as quickly as possible. All right, that's good. Ms. Coakley, you may proceed.
I think you're a little soft spoken, so because we're dealing with these mics, we're just gonna try and you speak as loud as possible, if that's okay. So you said you're 17 years old? Are you nervous about being here today? Is this a topic that you like to talk about? No. Is it kind of embarrassing to be here and have to talk about these things?
Okay,
When you're
Ms. Coakley,
nervous, I heard-
Ms. Coakley, I'm going to have your assistance to make sure she does everything she can to project, because she has a very soft voice and it's not coming. If I'm not hearing it, I know my jurors are not hearing it. So as best you can, even if you have to feel like you're shouting, make sure you project. Okay, do you understand that, ma'am?
Yeah, I understand.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Coakley.
When you are nervous, I noticed you giggled a little bit. Is that a nervous tick that you have?
I'm nervous, so I do that. Yeah.
Now, we're here to talk, do you know what we're here to talk about, more or less?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about how your family was made up in January of 2022. So that's right when you moved back to Florida. Who was part of your family at that point?
So my parents, my sister, and my brother.
Okay. What were your parents' names? And tell us about your siblings. What were their names? Okay. Who is the oldest sibling in your family? Okay. Who's second?
All right, Ms. Coakley, they're still having a problem hearing her. So, Mr. I'm going to.
IT here. She is speaking like very close to the microphone and pretty clearly here. And we're going to see if IT can help us.
All right, so let's see if IT can increase the gain. And I'm going to ask you to go back to the last two questions because I think that's where she dropped off. Maybe you can increase the gain on that mic.
Connor, I think he's gonna switch mics for us. And so if you just give us one moment, well. Okay. What if we,
Judge, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine. Her voice is very soft, though. I'm sure that's part of the problem. All right, I can hear you fine. Hers is the voice we need to test, though.
We should just be testing one, two,
We
three.
need to testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, say that again.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, as long as you keep that level, I think we can hear you, but don't let your voice drop off. You ever been on the sidelines watching a sports event and yelling? Don't be afraid to do that here, so go ahead.
Okay.
I think you were telling us about the makeup of your family in December of 2022. I asked you, you said you lived with your two parents. What were their names?
Timothy and Tracy.
Okay. And you said that you lived with 3 siblings. Tell me the 3 siblings' names. And you said that you were the oldest sibling. What's the next sibling in the age order?
That would be
And then who comes next? And then who's the last? How close in age are you to approximately?
2 years.
Okay, so you're 2 years older?
Roughly.
Okay, so you're 17 now, almost 18?
Correct.
And so that he's about 15, just turning 16 approximately?
16 this year.
Yeah, he just turned 16? Yep. And how far away is between men and in age? If you don't know, that's okay.
I'm not entirely sure.
Are you guys kind of relatively close in age?
Yeah, we're all relatively close.
Within a year or two of each other? Were you close in grades in school?
Correct. Yes.
And how about, is he close in age?
No.
Okay, how old is now? Approximately.
I want to guess 4.
Okay, so he's kind of, through much of this was a smaller baby or a toddler.
Yes.
Okay, while you and your sister Noah and Ray were much closer in age.
Yes, you were.
Were you originally born in the United States?
No.
Where were you born?
I was born in China.
Okay, how did you end up coming to the United States?
I was adopted.
Okay, and who were you adopted by?
Tracy.
Do you know how old you were when you were adopted?
No.
Were you a baby or a toddler?
I could walk sort of, so maybe in between.
Okay, so a little though.
Yes.
Now, do you know whether or not your brother was born in the United States?
Yes. No, he wasn't born.
Okay, do you know where he was born?
Vietnam.
Okay. Was he also adopted?
Yes.
What about Liv? Was she adopted?
No.
MC adopted?
No.
Now, you said that in January in 2022, everyone lived together. And where did you live? What city did you live in?
We lived in Jupiter.
Is that in Palm Beach County?
Yes.
Now, growing up in the time that you were living in Jupiter, or maybe one before, who was kind of the rule maker for your parents?
Timothy, my dad.
Was Tracy involved in enforcing the rules or making the rules?
She helped support the rules.
Okay. But who was the one that dictated what the rules and what you had to follow?
Him.
If you had a dispute or disagreement about a rule or whether or not it was fair, is that something that you could talk about with him?
No.
Okay. And why is that?
Because he would reason us out of it, or I just wouldn't be able to say anything.
Was he the disciplinarian in the house?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about, you said in January of 2022, you guys lived in Florida. When did you come to Florida?
We moved roughly in December. I'm sorry, the year's a little confusing.
So I think we said January of 2022 was when you were with when you guys lived together as a family.
Correct.
Did you move back December right before?
Yeah, December 3rd.
Okay, so that would have been December of 2021?
Correct.
So the time frame that we're talking about, is that like 5 or 6 weeks
Roughly.
that you lived in that house in Jupiter?
Yes.
Okay. And you moved to Florida. Where did you move from?
We moved from Arizona.
How long had you been in Arizona at that point?
Approximately 5 years.
Prior to Arizona, where did you live?
Florida.
So this was your second time coming back to Jupiter, Florida?
Yes.
When you lived in Florida before, was that like elementary school age, much younger?
Yes. Up until the grade.
Now, when you moved back to Jupiter, what neighborhood did you move into?
When we moved back,
Yeah, in
Cedar Landing.
what type of house was that?
It was a small one-story house.
Okay, single family home?
Correct.
How many bedrooms did it have?
3.
Who had the bedrooms?
So the master bedroom were Tim and Tracy, and I each had our own bedroom. And then, yeah, I guess if you want one in the garage or the bedroom, then that's where it had his bedroom in the office. Then we made that into his own room.
Okay, you said that that I wanted to count something in the garage. What do you mean by that? What was in the garage?
They had a room built for
Who had built?
my parents.
Okay, so Tim and Tracy had that room specifically built into the garage?
Correct.
Is that room already there by the time you moved?
I don't remember.
Okay. But was it there at the very least shortly thereafter?
I saw it at first.
And when we say that it's in the garage, was everyone else's room in the main house?
Correct, yes,
And was the only one that had to stay in the garage?
yes.
Now, I want to show you what has already been marked as evidence and shown to the jury. There's some pictures of your home, okay? And so I want to see if you recognize any of them. You mentioned that you had a bedroom. I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as evidence as state 7A and F. Just take a look at it and tell me if you recognize whose room that is.
Yeah, that's my room.
Okay. And now I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as states 5A through D. It's another bedroom in the home. Whose bedroom is that?
That would be,
And then I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as states 4A through D. And you might need to flip because like one's a close-up. It's fine to do that.
yeah,
You recognize what room that is.
yeah, so this one's,
And we see some mattresses on the floor there. Is that how it was when you lived there? Were there mattresses on the floor in this room, or was there just a crib in there?
there was a lot of things in there, I can't remember specifically.
Is that a place where they slept?
No,
Okay, so just slept in there by himself?
yes,
Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as state 6. Tell me what that shows.
bathroom,
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as state 9. What does that show us a picture of?
that's the garage.
And in stage 9, you said that there was a structure built that your parents specifically built in the garage. Can you see it in that picture?
Yes, it's behind the cracks.
Okay. Is that white building?
Yes,
Okay. Let's talk about that white structure that's in the
yeah,
garage.
that little white box in it.
Let's talk about it. Did that have any windows?
No,
Did it have a lock from the outside?
yes,
Did it have any access from in the garage to a bathroom?
no,
And did it have lights inside of it?
I can't remember.
Now, is that the room that Ian slept in?
Yes,
Is that room, other than just sleeping times, did he spend time or was he put in that room?
yes,
Was allowed to be in the house by himself?
no,
Was he allowed to walk freely through the house?
no,
Was he allowed to do something like watch TV in the living room?
not alone.
Were you allowed to do that?
Yes,
Was your sister allowed to do that?
yes,
What about snacks? Was there food freely available to him in the kitchen?
no,
Would he be allowed to go and take a snack out of the fridge?
no,
What about get a drink of water if he was thirsty? Is that something he would be allowed to do?
maybe water, if someone watched him.
Only if someone watched him. And only if he's out of the room.
Yes,
Were you allowed to take a snack if you were hungry?
yes,
Was your sister allowed to get a snack if you were hungry?
yes,
Were there times that you would receive special treats, like, desserts or snacks?
correct.
What would happen in those instances? Would they be shared with all of your siblings?
We usually rewards, and usually when I received them, it wasn't often that I was received.
Okay. Are there some times that once in a while he would receive a reward?
Very rare.
But were there times where you and you were getting a reward that was not included
Yes.
in having special treats or snacks?
Yes.
Are there times through in this household growing up, were you someone who was observant of how your parents treated your other siblings?
Yes,
Did you watch and listen to things that were happening
yes,
throughout your childhood?
I did.
Are you an observant person?
I would consider myself to be.
Did you ever see Tom get punished?
Yes,
Was the type of punishment that Tom got the same type of punishment that you or Noah would get for the same type of conduct?
no,
How was it different?
it was either more extreme or something completely different than what we received.
Were you ever locked in your room or prevented from leaving?
No,
Did you ever have to go to the bathroom only in a bucket?
no,
Were you ever required to be alone in your room in the dark?
no,
Were you allowed to have phones?
yes,
Were you allowed to play games on your devices?
yes,
Was Ty allowed to play games?
no,
Uh,
not unsupervised.
Was he allowed to have a device?
No,
Now, you said that you saw through your time in Florida get punished. Did you ever see him get punished for little things?
yes,
Like what?
for me, it'd be just not answering questions. Maybe he plays a little too rough with one of us, or he talks back.
When you say he wasn't answering questions, what do you mean?
Let's say he did something wrong and they asked him about it. He wouldn't say anything. He just wouldn't answer them.
And what would be the response to that?
If he didn't answer them to a certain point, he'd be sent to his room. Or if he did answer, he'd still be sent to his room.
And when he's sent to his room, is he then allowed to leave?
No,
Is he locked in there?
yes, he did leave. I don't know if he was locked all the time, but I know he wouldn't want to leave.
Did you see both Tim and Tracy force him into the room? Make him go into the room?
I heard both of them tell him to do it.
And did you see both Tim and Tracy involved in the punishment and discipline?
Can you be more specific?
Well, there's some things that one person did or the other person did, but were they both?
They were both involved in much.
Now, over time, growing up with your brother, did you notice him become less communicative?
Yes, they shut down.
Okay. Did you notice him over time, especially toward the end, become more withdrawn?
Yes,
Did he smile less?
yes,
And that's something you noticed kind of as his sibling?
yes.
Now, I want to talk about specifically right now the time in Florida. What was your observation about kind of how often he was in the room?
How often he was in the room?
Yeah, did you see him around the house very often?
Not inside the house.
No. Where would you see
More
him?
outside.
Okay, tell me about that. What would he be doing outside?
Yard work, moving the outdoor furniture.
So when he's outside, is it like that he has the opportunity to freely play?
No, it's not, and it's not for entertainment.
Okay, what kind of yard work is he doing?
At the time we were moving in, so it was mostly moving supplies outside the house.
Okay, was there some yard work or landscaping involving shelves that he was required to do?
Yes.
Okay, is that something that you were required to do?
No.
And did you see him doing that?
Yes, I did see moving him.
And you said that you would observe him outside. When he was told to go outside, did he have the free option of coming back into the house?
No.
How would that work?
So if he was put outside, one of them would know that he's outside. One of my parents know he's outside, and then if he got done with work, he'd come and wait for them to let him back.
Okay, would he be allowed to just come back in?
Not unless someone was watching him.
Okay. And are there times when he'd be locked out of being allowed back in the house?
Yes.
And then when he was let back in, would he then be able to relax around the house, or what would happen?
Not really. He'd either go to his room or just go somewhere to be monitored.
Okay. Now, in your house, did you eat meals with him regularly?
No.
Where would he be while you would be eating?
Most likely in his room.
And what about when you would get home from school? Would he be with you doing homework in the kitchen or the living room?
No, he did most of the time in his room. I didn't see him very often.
You didn't see him very often out in around the house?
Around the house.
Okay, so when you saw him, when he was home and you were home, for the most part, was he one of two places?
Yes.
And what are those two places?
Room or outside.
Were you allowed after school to come and go freely around the house?
Yes.
And your mom, was she around during those times of the day after school?
Yes.
She didn't work?
No.
Were there times that the defendant, Tim, in this case, was also around?
Yes.
In the house?
Yes.
Would he sometimes do stuff with either?
Mm-hmm.
But after school, would Tim or Tracy do things with you all after school occasionally?
We would eat meals. I can't think of.
Okay, but was it with you when that happened?
Not often.
And when you say not often, was there one or two times that he was out and allowed to eat meals?
He was sometimes eat with us.
The majority of the time there.
Not that enough that I can really recall.
Now, you at that time, were you involved in any activities at school?
I was here.
Yeah, here.
I was the part of the marching band and band in general.
Were there some times that you had football games or events that were related to the marching band?
Yes.
Sometimes on those occasions, did your brother come to the event?
Not that I can recall, but
where would he be during those?
If my parents were coming here, he might have been with them or he might have been at home.
Okay. And when he was left home alone, when your parents were at your event, was he allowed to be out freely in the house?
No.
So were there family events that you went to where your brother is left home alone in the house?
Yes.
Did you personally even get the opportunity to see him very often during those 6 weeks in Florida?
Very, very like passing outside maybe, or through the window.
Even when he was at home?
Yeah, so I would see him like maybe moving yard work, I'd see him through my window, or maybe he did briefly come in the house for food or whatnot.
Now, was there a time in Florida where your brother ran away?
Yes.
And do you remember that happening?
Yes.
Was it over a weekend?
I believe so.
Okay, and what did you end up staying at? What kind of happened when he was gone? Where were your parents?
So I was left home alone at a softball tournament, and Tim was far enough not present in the house.
Okay, so he's out of town maybe. And you said Tracy left.
Yes.
Where did she go?
I believe she went to the
Was that like in Jupiter, around Palm Beach County, or was it out of town?
I don't remember.
Okay, but were you home alone?
Yes.
While your brother was missing?
Yes.
Were you allowed to let him back in the house
No.
if he came?
No.
Now, I want to talk for a second about another time frame. And Your Honor, now would be the appropriate time to read that instruction.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I have an instruction on the law that I'll be reading to you at this time. The evidence you receive from FF and RF concerning other crimes, wrongs, or acts allegedly committed by the defendants will be considered by you for the limited purpose of proving motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, or corroborating the testimony of EM, and you shall consider it only as it relates to those issues. However, the defendant is not on trial for a crime, wrong, or act that is not included in the information. You cannot convict the defendant for an offense he is not charged with. Instead, he can only be convicted of the crime for which he is charged.
Now, I want to talk with you about, we talked about kind of the time frame in Florida. Prior to Florida, you said you lived in Arizona. Correct. Tell me about the house that you lived in Arizona. What city did you live in Arizona?
We lived in Tucson.
Okay, tell me about the house you lived in.
It was a one-story house.
How many bedrooms was this house? Tell me about that.
So there were 4 bedrooms.
When you first lived there, who were the bedrooms assigned to?
So when we first initially lived there, it was myself.
And then did your parents have a separate
Yeah,
bedroom?
master bedroom.
Okay. So you said your sister, your brother, and you each had an individual bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. And was your brother's bedroom inside the house?
We don't know. Yes.
Now, how old approximately are you when you kind of first moved to Arizona?
I just finished the 5th grade, so I don't know what that is right
Okay,
now.
so you're in about the 5th grade?
Yes.
And is younger than you?
Yes.
So he's in the 3rd or 4th grade
Yes.
at that time?
Oh, wait, no, moving?
When you first got to
Yes.
Arizona?
He had just, yes, sorry.
So is it right to say that he was probably in the 3rd or 4th grade at that point, elementary school?
Yes.
Okay, and also in elementary school?
Yes.
Now, at that point, you said that he had his own room.
Yes.
That room, was it like an ordinary, regular room, or was there anything different about it?
No, it was basically a mirror of Lola's room.
Could he go and come freely in that room?
Yes.
Okay, at some point, was there any kind of lock placed on that room?
There was a latch.
Tell me about that.
There was a little latch attached to the top of the door frame. It had a little pin keyhole thing.
So tell me, what does that mean for the person that's inside the room?
You can come out.
Okay, so it could be latched from the outside?
Yes.
Did you see that there were times when he had a room in the house that it would be latched from the outside and he'd be locked in that room? Would he be locked in that room in Arizona?
Yes.
Did that room have a bathroom?
No.
Now, is there at some point a time where he no longer had a room in the house?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
When our dog was born, they had a room built into the garage.
Okay. Tell me about the room that was built in the garage.
No windows. It had no windows to kind of AC unit, bed, and sometimes a bucket, or sometimes the bottles were in there, but they're taken out.
Okay, tell me about that. Was there times, how would that happen?
So like about the items in there get taken out. If he got in trouble, if something happened, they would get moved out all the way out of his room, or if he had like decorations, when he would get upset, he would take them off the walls.
Okay. And when you say they would take everything out of the room, what would be left in the room?
His bed and a small desk when he would do homework.
Now, you mentioned that the room was built into the garage. Was that house the same as the Florida house? Like, was it all on one level, or was it something different?
So the Arizona house?
The Arizona house.
Yeah, it's still all on floor. The garage has steps going down to it, but it's all on.
Now, that room in Arizona, did it have a bathroom attached to it?
The guy's room?
Yeah.
No.
Did it have any windows?
No.
Did that room lock from the outside?
Yes.
Did that room have any kind of smell?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It did not smell good.
How come?
He had his bucket in there, which he would use for his bathroom. And sometimes he didn't have a bucket in there, and just be on the floor.
Now, were there times in Arizona, like in Florida, where your brother would be in that room for long periods of time?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It's roughly the same idea as one here. When we did it in Florida, he got in trouble, get sent down to his room, but it's more of getting sent down, more often he was getting sent to the room.
And then how long would he be in the room for? Would it be long periods of time?
It would be long periods. I can't say off the top of my head.
Are we talking like all day?
I have to say there were some days that I didn't really see him that often.
Yeah. And so if you didn't see him that often, was he like not at the house, or where was he?
He was in his room or again outside.
Okay. So was the situation in Arizona similar in that he spent a lot of time in the room by himself.
Yes.
If he wasn't in school, where was he most of the time?
Are we talking about in Arizona?
In Arizona.
In Arizona, outside doing yard work or in his room.
Now, we talked about in Florida, when he's outside doing yard work, he couldn't just come back in. Is that the same in Florida?
Yes.
What would happen? Like, where would he just stand outside, or how would that work?
Yeah, so if he was doing yard work finished, he'd come stand outside and just wait for one of them would go meet him outside. Because by then I knew my parents.
Okay. Was he allowed to just come back in himself?
No,
Would the door be locked?
I can't.
Okay, you don't know whether or not it was locked.
I don't
Okay,
know.
I don't want you to speculate. But was he allowed or freely able to come back in?
No.
Okay. Now, when he's outside, does he have under direct supervision there?
No, not all the time.
So he's just kind of out there by himself?
Yes,
And your parents, Tim and Tracy, are someplace else?
yes,
Now, you said that was roughly around the time that your brother was born. Who ended up taking over your brother's room when he was born? Okay, so that became the new baby's room.
yes.
And you said that this is now, how old do you think he was now? Around 4?
Four-ish, I would say.
Okay. So was it approximately how many years do you think was the special room in Arizona? Just an estimate.
Oh, like how?
How long before you moved to Florida was he kept in that room?
So the one in Arizona?
The one in Arizona, before you came to Florida?
It was roughly 2 when we got here, so maybe more than a year.
So approximately 2 years,
Roughly. That he's been in a room. That's not
before you came to Florida.
Yes.
Okay. And how old were you when you came to Florida?
So moving from Arizona to Florida.
How old were you?
So, oh wait, oh, I'm sorry, I think I got confused. Wait,
It's okay, take your time.
okay, so when we moved to Arizona, yeah, I had just finished the 5th grade, and then when we moved back, I was in the middle of my sophomore year.
Okay, so you were in high school.
Yes.
When you came back to Florida.
Yes,
And your brother was in middle school.
yes,
Now, we talked a lot about your brother being in the room in Arizona. Were there times where you were concerned about whether or not your brother was getting food or being fed regularly?
yes.
What would you do when that happened?
If I saw there was a plate for him, sometimes I'd be able to take it and just run it down to him really quick. And otherwise, I really couldn't do anything.
And when you say you brought it down to him, where would you have to bring it down to?
Treat his room downstairs in the garage. This is their room, right? Yeah, so downstairs, his room there.
Are there times over the course of when you were living in Arizona that you ever saw your father, the defendant, be physically aggressive towards your brother?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
You would grab him by the back of the neck and just kind of haul him down to his room. That was the most common one that I saw.
Would you be able to see what was happening once they're down in the room?
Once they're there, no.
Would you be able to hear what is happening?
Yes.
Tell me what you heard.
I would hear him curse at him, yell at him.
And you saying I would hear him cursing. And who would
Sorry, I would hear Tim yell at him.
And you hear him cursing?
Yes.
Okay. What else would you hear?
I would hear the sound of contact, so like slapping or hitting or something. Then I'll hear my brother scream.
Now, during these interactions, are they like is Tim, the defendant in this case, like rationally explaining or calmly explaining the change in behavior or what your brother did wrong?
No.
Is he angry?
Yes.
How can you tell that? Like, what made you think that he was angry?
It was really loud and it didn't really seem much like an explanation. It just felt like he was just shouting at him.
Was your brother in trouble with your parents or on punishment with your parents a lot of the time?
Yes.
Did it seem like he basically was always in trouble?
Yes.
Did it seem like even when he did things that were positive or appropriate, that was acknowledged? Based on what you saw?
Objections overruled. Objections overruled.
Wait, before answering.
The objection was speculation, correct? Objections overruled.
Based on what you saw, when your brother was acting in the way that your parents wanted or doing positive things, was that acknowledged?
Briefly.
Okay. Did it lead to like a change in his circumstances or improvement in how he was treated?
Briefly.
Okay. When you say briefly, what do you mean by that?
It maybe went for a week or so and then something else happened. He did something else. He got himself in trouble and didn't go back to the way it was.
Was the way that he got in trouble to you, did it seem proportionate to what you knew he got in trouble for?
No.
did it seem extreme, a reaction?
Relevant, her opinion,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that objection.
Was relevant, Your Honor?
relevant as to her opinion.
All right, overruled. Go ahead, Ms. Coakley.
Can you answer that
So
question?
can you repeat it?
Yeah, did the punishment seem appropriate or proportional to
No.
what he was doing?
No, no,
Did the majority of the things that he was punished for, are they minor types of things?
from what I saw, yes.
Now, I want to talk about how your perception of in both Florida and Arizona.
Okay.
Did you ever feel a time that you were unsafe around your brother?
Honestly, that's still,
Physical harm?
like, him harming me?
Yeah.
No,
No. Did you at any time, did he ever threaten you or anything like that?
no,
Did you ever see him intentionally cause physical harm to any of your siblings
no,
or your parents?
no.
That's all the questions I have.
All right, Mr. Waidi, any cross?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. Mark, you can escort the jurors into the jury room for a very short break, and then once we're set up, we'll reconvene.
You're on our end, we're ready.
I'm sorry, Ms. Coakley?
We're set up. I don't know if you're breaking for us. We're ready to.
Okay, bear with me just for a second, Ms. Coakley, while the jury leaves the courtroom. All right, Ms. Murad, are you going to go down to 10G, or how do you want to handle this? All right, so let's have Mr. Wahid needs to come up here then. All right, Mr. Wahid, you need to come on up here to have a conference, and then you'll have to go back down to 10G.
Fair enough.
Okay, all right.
Change the. Somehow.
Everyone can be seated.
And we'll hear that. So, well, I'm gonna, I'll be standing there. Yeah. So if we be, and if you want to speak. So when you're there, or whatever, anything. Proximity is great.
I'll get it. Never get out. So you're.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put it on mute, I guess.
Yeah, have a great day.
It's going to depend on you folks in terms of what you tell me as far as your cross of this witness. I mean, obviously, this will be the last witness for the day, but if you have a long way to go, then that'll affect what I do for the remainder of the day. Ms. Black, Ms. Moran, let me have you approach. What we are discussing now.
He anticipates 35 to 40 minutes of cross-examination, so I don't know who will be completing it. Very likely.
So give them a mic, so this is all on the record. It's almost 5 o'clock then. I'm inclined, if you're not going to finish very quickly, and I'm obviously not rushing you at all on your cross. I want you to take whatever time you think you need, but if you think you're going to need 35 to 45 minutes, that's going to run us over what I normally, the time I normally keep jurors here in the afternoon. So I'm inclined then to not start the cross until tomorrow morning. What do both sides think on that? Okay. And just let Ms. Coakley know that Mr. Wahid's anticipating 35 to 45 minutes. Okay.
After speaking to my client, we definitely won't be done quickly. So I would agree with the court if the court is saying, let's hold this cross till tomorrow.
And it's just not only, it's not for my benefit, but the benefit of the jurors that are deciding this case. Any issue having Ms. Ferriter back tomorrow morning? Ms. Black? The state handles their witnesses and availability, so I'm looking for you to give me guidance.
I don't know what her availability is, to be honest, so let me just find out.
Can Ms. Coakley come back? I mean, we can communicate with her through this link.
I don't think she's in there. Do you just want to run out? I just want to talk to her. But she probably talking to us.
We're all getting our steps in today, Judge.
Well, I'm in 10G, so I walk from literally one end of the courthouse to the other every time I take a
I was
break.
just in your courtroom. It's lovely, but far. In heels. I don't have to do that. That's great.
I choose my own.
That's
Ms. Coakley, can you hear me? Ms. Coakley? I'm not able to hear her now.
They fixed it, they just unmuted it.
Okay, so Mr. Waheed's advised that he expects his cross to take anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes, which leads me to the determination that we're probably better served to start the cross-examination tomorrow morning, because I don't want to keep the jury here to 5:45 or 6 today. What's your availability of the witness to be back here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock?
Understood, Your Honor.
I'm asking, is the state able to have Ms. Ferriter back here tomorrow morning at 10?
I mean, I'm showing up in the school, but I mean, it can't be helped.
Yeah, I don't think it can be helped. So I think that's what we're going to do. Just let the witness know that we'll need her back here tomorrow. Make sure whomever is responsible for her has her here ready to continue her cross-examination at 10 o'clock. We do want to run a test again tomorrow morning before we start to make sure that the technology is working properly. I've expressed just a little bit of concern to Ms. Black and Ms. Murad while you were not here, Mr. Waheed, of the jury's ability to hear and understand Ms. Ferriter. I don't know if it's because of her enunciation or because of the technology, but it was very difficult to catch every word that she was saying. And I'm just letting both sides know there was no objection raised during the testimony, so there's nothing for me to act on. But I did want to give both sides at least a heads up with the court's concern about the quality. Think about it if there's some other way we want to approach it.
So, Judge, when I was just downstairs talking to the tech, they said they had just switched it so that the sound is now coming directly from the owl. I'm not sure is it better or worse as now than it was earlier?
Well, we could hear Ms. Coakley fine. Ms. Coakley was not the problem. The problem was when Ms. Ferriter was testifying and speaking. The short answers we could hear fine. The yes, the no, to 1, 2, 3, those kinds of answers. But anytime it was more of an explanation, it became more difficult. And again, I don't know if it's because of the enunciation or just simply the quality of the sound transmission.
It was very clear.
I can go back up there to address this, but I do think it would be helpful if you empowered the jury to let us know and we would immediately like to raise their hand.
I did do that, and I had the thumbs up at the beginning, but after the testimony was concluded, my bailiff advised me that a couple of the jurors told him that they had difficulty hearing. So I'm just gonna have to put the onus back on the jurors. If you can't hear, stop the proceedings so that we can make sure that you hear everything, because we have to make sure that they can hear everything. The other thing I will tell you is if the jury does request a readback or a replay of her testimony, the testimony will be replayed from the recording in courtroom 10G, not this courtroom. So that should solve any issue with respect to the recording and the transmission through the IT. So I'm not going to suggest it, but if they do request it at the replay, then I think they'll get a clearer replay than they maybe got with the original play.
Would you like me to just come back up there now then? So we can.
Yeah, you can come on back up here now, and then I'll bring the jurors out and tell them that we're going to begin, because of the lateness of the hour, we're going to continue the cross until tomorrow. So when you get back up here, I'll bring the jurors back up, Ms. Coakley.
All right, sounds good, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. You're going to make that trek all the way down and back? G. All right, so Mark, as soon as Ms. Coakley gets back, then you can bring the jurors out and we'll recess for today. Okay, all set, ready to proceed? All right, Mark, you may go ahead and bring the jurors out. All right.
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, because of the lateness of the day, we're going to end the proceedings for today and continue with the cross-examination tomorrow. I do want to reiterate, because my bailiff did advise me that some of you had difficulty hearing. Very important, as I said at the beginning, that you hear all the testimony that is being given to you. So we're going to continue with this setup tomorrow, and there will be another witness in which the setup will be the same. But if you have any difficulty hearing at all at any part of the proceeding, raise your hand and let me know so that I can have them either repeat the question, because it's very important that I get feedback from you if you can't hear. You're the important ones, obviously, and that you hear the evidence. So just make sure that if you can't hear and you think you're missing something, you raise your hand and let me know, and then I'll work with the technology we have to make sure that it's presented so that you can hear it. Other than that, I want you to go home tonight. It's been a full long day. Same schedule tomorrow. Check in with the jury office at 9:15. Be up here at the elevators at 9:45, and Mark will be ready to meet you for a 10 o'clock sharp start time. I don't anticipate any delays tomorrow in starting at 10 o'clock sharp, so I am fairly confident, as confident as I can be, that we'll start close to the estimated time. Remember, during the recess, don't discuss the case with each other or with anyone else. Do any kind of research, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it all at this point. Most importantly, though, in all seriousness, make sure that you continue to avoid any inadvertent exposure to any type of media coverage. So any questions from you folks before I let you go for the day? All right, well, good. I will see you tomorrow. Go home, get a good night's dinner and a good night's rest, because I expect we'll go the full day tomorrow as well. All right, thank you. All right, everyone may be seated. Anything I need to address before we recess for today? I'm assuming the state's case will run through the entirety of tomorrow. All right, so that brings me to my next question. I always like the day that the state expects to finish their case. I want to make sure that you come armed with proposed jury instructions and enough copies, and that if there are any issues with respect to the jury instructions, those have been worked out in advance. Are there any issues? You won't have to decide it right now, but are there any issues that are anticipated with respect to the jury instructions in this case? I know Ms. Black provided the court with a copy, and I assume she provided defense counsel with a copy of the proposed instructions. Have you had a chance to look at that, Ms. Murad or Mr. Wahid? So I won't hold you to it at this point. Try to look at them tonight, and if there are any issues you need to alert me to, let me know. I don't even have to hear them tomorrow, but I will need to be ready promptly, probably Thursday sometime, to hear any issues that need to be worked out with respect to the verdict form or the jury instructions. Okay, and I used to dread charge conferences in civil because they would take forever, but in criminal it's not too bad. So I don't expect it to take a lot of time to work through the charges.
I do have the lesser of child abuse, but I don't know the other lesser.
That's what I assumed as I read because you did have the lesser for the one, but there weren't lessers for the other, and I assumed that there weren't lessers as a matter of law. So, all right. Okay, so let's talk about that before I let you go. Your time is less valuable to me than the jurors. I'm just kidding. But so the state is still anticipating that you will finish on Thursday, correct? Is that?
Yes, I'll be frank with Your Honor, in compiling my exhibits, they're longer than I was calculating, but I'm still hopeful we will be done. I expect this to be done already, or that we're doing now tomorrow morning.
Right. I've gotten the impression that we're just a little bit behind schedule. I mean, and because of technology issues, I get that. So if give me your best guess. I mean, if it's not going to be to Friday, at some point I need to alert them that we're maybe going to go a day over if that's in fact going to happen. Remember, a day over is a big deal here because that means we go to next Tuesday.
I expect to rest on Thursday. I don't know if it will be midday or the end of the day yet.
Okay.
Better idea tomorrow afternoon.
All right, so we'll know better tomorrow. Ms. Murad, you indicated you have 3 civilian witnesses. You have an expert, right?
Yes, the 3 civilian witnesses are relatively short, so should the state rest after their expert on Thursday afternoon, I can call the 3 witnesses.
And then you have your expert,
She'll be a minute.
and then you'll make a decision at that time, game time decision as to whether your client will testify or not. Obviously, when we get to that stage of the proceedings, I'll need to do the necessary colloquies from the court. Let's assume that and I'm not holding to anything, but let's assume you put on your 3 witnesses, the expert and your client testifies just for budgeting and time. What is that looking at? Is that a full day of testimony? That's a day and a half. So that means that if the state rests by Thursday midday, that you would go with your case possibly all the way through the end of Friday, and then deliberations would start. Well, no, that's why I said that a day over is a big deal here because Monday's off and we start Tuesday. So I get that. And I won't tell you that I had suspended my calendar for the entirety of next week, but that's subject to change depending on what happens with this. All right, good enough. Then anything else I need to address before we break for the day?
No, I will not, I mean, you know this, but the one of the jurors has applied on Monday. So
Is it one of the ones we chose?
Yes.
juror number 6, Ms. Singwell, I believe.
Juror number 6? Well, that is why we chose 3 alternates, just in an abundance of caution. Ms. Tuggle, which one? Oh, you're giving me the number that she's in the. Yeah, it's juror 29 is the one that has the flight.
Just so that I understand right, what juror number is she in the?
Oh, she's my bailiff's telling me she's number 5.
I thought you were on my side.
Yeah, number 5. Okay, all right, so we will break and recess for the day. Same schedule tomorrow. We will start sharply at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I don't intend to let anything go past.
Yeah, and I can come back on Tuesday. So like,
Oh, we will address that when we have to. Let's not get there if we don't have to get there. All right, so it may not be an issue at all if she's going to be back for Tuesday because Monday's a holiday. All right, well, everyone have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow for a 10 o'clock sharp start time. Court's in recess.
Court's in recess.
Hello. Hey, Kaz. That's the end of day 1, and I will be starting day 2 in 12 minutes. This is going to be a short trial, you guys. A very short trial. I really like this judge, though. This judge is really, really nice. Don't you guys agree? All right, I will be back in 12 minutes with the next day. Sibling continues to testify. See you then. Oh yeah, don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe, and pimp me out.